do is add the stream.
I can recognize. Yeah, it is. It is that.
Yeah, I think if I'm right here and then back here, it might be good.
Just talk and walk all you want. It is. It is.
Oh, you can't.
Is it going to be that small? Oh, there we go.
Now, see, watch. You can look on the screen, and there you are. And then I can type in the main one. And there
Oh, okay.
Oh, look. We got a bubble.
I know. That's mine. That's pretty funny. Maybe I got a laugh out of that.
You're right.
I'm going to finish it before. Okay, so there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually better if I stay upright, probably, than.
Yeah. When you go, it seems to turn it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll just drop it and I'll just remove it for now.
That's right.
And then I guess, what we'll do is, I guess when someone new goes up to talk, we'll just have you do a quick pan.
Okay, and then stay here for the majority?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
That'd be
Do you
fine.
want me to keep it up for it, or just when it the first come up? Then
Just the first come up. It doesn't have to be a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll sit on the end here.
Oh my.
But
I'm gonna actually get my sweater.
yeah, I need some water too, real quick.
Like you're
What? Is this the same place I live?
get a few $1,000 and go. That's exactly right, but you're not going to get a place. Wow.
A weird roundabout.
Oh, going upside down.
Oh my gosh, not everyone.
Bill. Even you know how Abilene.
Oh yeah. Look, kind of scraggly.
She was lower. Lower part.
You're kidding.
I was it was horse property in the backyard or in the.
They bought it out and changed it. Wow.
Dance.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like in parades they do that.
Yeah.
Like,
What are those called? I It makes it difficult.
Yeah. It was a Marine Corps complaint. All the Marines out where I live.
I didn't even interrupt the conversation.
Oh, no, you're all right. I'm looking at you.
Should be sound now.
Heidi, I'm sorry about your mom.
Hey, how you doing, Damon? Long time no see.
You okay? All right.
I'm hanging in there.
Sucks to lose your mom. I'm sorry.
It does suck.
It sucks.
The fact that your father
What a crazy ass year, huh?
that's also.
Can you believe it?
That's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said.
Yeah, I thought last year was bad.
I think it's going to go up from here. I think it's going to go up from here.
It will.
Natural presence.
Hi.
And you have it.
How you doing? I'm all right. I like Chris.
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm
Damon. Yeah, we've met before.
Yeah,
It's a while.
long time.
It is kid.
I don't see a big chair, but that's
And
You got any dogs? Any cats?
I have cats.
How many cats?
Too many. You want one?
I didn't ask. Sorry.
Want two?
I have
Maybe
2
three?
dogs. I'm good with it.
Really? I'll put them in a basket and I'll wrap them up nice with a little bow. They're really well behaved.
That's tempting.
A lot of people get it.
we know Joey?
Yeah, we went. Either they know Joey or they know
I
his
know.
name.
I don't know what to say.
These days with the Facebook.
I know.
I don't do that. People know each other.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's how Angela and I keep talking. You're
Yeah.
on Facebook?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, remind me before we leave.
Yeah.
And we'll connect.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You got to work on this every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just take care of yourself. Be sure to get plenty of water. Walk.
My son has a heavy foot. I didn't even understand.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because
His brother. And his
when my dad died,
his dad didn't have the insurance.
big, I wasn't aware of that, how it was affecting me until later, like retrospect.
Oh, boy.
But he was nice.
No, I know Wyatt and Wayland are here, but where's Frankito?
He's Frankito.
Aware of it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta
It
get
hits it in ways.
I haven't seen him in a while.
It is more physical. It's almost in your body more than your
Right, even if you think you're not thinking about it.
No, right. You gotta just
You're
take care of yourself.
experiencing it.
Consciously take care of yourself. Like you would do for a friend in this moment.
Carol? Yeah.
She looks good. Might get up and
You remember Vicky?
Oh, one of the cars?
yeah, you do. I hung out with her when we were young. We hung out together.
Yeah.
For a while. Off and on. Yeah. Very well. And then we got to see her again here when I was
Well, I
living.
can.
Yeah, you
And Vicky was
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
You're right. That was,
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's for sure. You know,
I was just giving
Yeah,
her
that
a
was-
Yeah, I saw how you were getting into the
a lot of ideas.
right. She,
She looked a little different than she did in her red. She is a person who reinvents herself.
oh, do you know?
She did in a red and she would reinvent herself.
That's a
Go somewhere else.
They did.
Something
They've got all
else.
these horses.
Created.
Yeah, no, it's like a little town.
There we go.
Is Joey there?
Yeah.
Hi, honey. Say hi to Dana.
Hey, Joey. Hi, Joey.
I don't know how we can see.
So I'm gonna I'll probably just
No, no. Like,
We got some friends in
my phone just charged.
There you go. There you go, Joey.
I can't see you, honey, but I'm here. Let me say hi to him too. Oh, yeah, so there's Angela.
There's Angela.
We're showing you, Joe.
Well, he is here. It's online.
He's here. Can we see him?
Yeah, later on, he has the option of coming up.
Nice yard here.
We'll take a walk around here since White ready to start.
when you said Joey.
Yeah.
Right here.
That's great.
Oh, no, that's
been
nice.
nice.
I'm just curious.
And I was here.
This tree is amazing.
I know. It's like it's a dead thing.
Yeah, it was worth everything. It's been
For a whole year now.
That was here when Harry died.
She said she had
we
really
did
good
same
size.
thing.
Remember that? Remember the Sinbads? And then they had these paddles. I had never seen them before. And then I was like, what is that? Then I saw a movie that was based in that time period.
Mind enough, you can
And
put
the guys had these paddles. It was
the
really
delay.
freaking
No,
cool.
that is what he belonged to.
But they used them, didn't they?
And that hurt.
I know. Like hijinks, right?
To get into the club.
There is a point. No, but that's the olden days. You like my post, what I said about the coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
You remember those?
Of course I do. As soon as you wrote that, I was thinking of one, but your mom took me to Conrad's, who closed now. Because my neighbor
At some point, it'll come out all together.
They're dying
She's so
breed.
sad.
They're a dying breed.
Didn't realize how.
Oh, there's Frankie and Teresa.
much I was missing.
God, I didn't realize she had.
It is.
that
It's a
sign.
That's a great picture.
Now, yeah.
Oh, I should have blown this picture out.
Me, I guess.
Yeah, here you go.
And,
Yeah, I'm not sure when. It does, right? The railing gives it away. Oh, Mom, yeah.
She looks so.
Oh,
she
cruise
looks
picture.
Yeah. She's the only one.
So much. So.
my wife.
Did you get one?
Oh, David said, say hello to her.
Oh.
I guess when she was showing us the jokes, David said.
Oh, I can't even see. She'll let us see after.
Yeah.
He said, well, yeah, long hair.
You look a lot. Oh, Joy?
No, I'm just making sure that.
Oh, your son. Oh, my God. Do you have a picture of him? Yeah,
Uh,
how old is David now? Good.
It's still a lot.
I was standing
Well,
right
wait,
on the camera.
maybe I'm
earlier,
under,
so.
so he was born in
Oh, you know.
83 in November.
Take this.
November bone.
That's my birthday. Yeah. November 11th is my birthday. Oh, he's got to be a special kid.
Veterans Day.
Yeah. I stopped the war when I was born in 1945.
Were you born 45? Also, you were.
Yeah, I did. I came out, I said, stop this shit.
Hey, how's it going? I'm good.
That's a famous day.
Is Joey still there? Oh, he's gonna love this.
You can stay here.
For other people.
Oh, these are beautiful, Grandma.
Yeah, they really are.
Vicky, how long to figure that out?
Nice picture.
Did you want me to
What?
you want me to get a
Oh, you're trying to find a picture. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Send it one. What do you picture?
I don't know. Did you guys know Joey had cancer?
Everyone sit down, grab a seat.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tonsil cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Stage
You're the MC.
when that
Were
he
you
had the
able to
chemo.
recite
Well,
he had the
did you
chemo
see
and
this?
radiation.
Did they
And
remove the tonsils?
the
out?
dropped it. No, they
No?
could not.
Well, you don't have to
But
read the
it's
whole.
now stage 2.
Oh wow. Well, that's a blessing.
I don't.
We'll take what we can get.
I know.
I'm not sure.
Such a shock. He didn't
You
tell me
want
till
someone else to
after
read
he
it?
went to the chemo and radiation because
I
they
can
don't want to bury me.
store
So he tells me in the car. he calls me. He says, "Mom, are you sitting still?" And I said, "Yeah." I got some good news and I got some bad news. He's a jokester. I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "The good news is I got the chemo and radiation." He said, "What?"
Yeah,
And he said, "The bad news is I
let everybody.
I will." And you know, it's from that.
Yeah.
I think I read away from all this electricity.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's just good. So, that was.
Yeah.
But he's doing great. 2 years now. He said, if you make it to the 2 years, there's only 5% chance.
Now, how did he know?
He had a knot.
On the outside? You could
Yeah, the inside. And he kept going to the doctor. They kept saying there's nothing wrong with it. He did it for a year. trying to read with another doctor.
Yeah, just, you lose people, half.
Thank God I didn't.
The last half of the.
Oh, yeah. I think I need that long, but it's okay.
Oh,
I'll
that's
do.
okay.
I took out a lemon
Just in case I need to charge it. And then between.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. He went through hell. He worked every day in the hospital. They made him a little office. So he made it.
Good question.
Boy,
I think everybody here would agree.
that was the hardest thing.
Yeah,
Because I lost my husband.
yeah, I was just out there. Do you want to go take a look to see if she's? My friend Amanda. Her first. No.
If someone's gonna sit here, that's fine.
Come on in.
He's a fighter. He's a fighter. He doesn't. And when I flew back here, as soon as he told me I got him the first plane,
That's where. Yeah, that's where they saw her last.
and he made me.
All right.
It is what it is.
Where do you want to go?
Oh my God! I can't believe it. Well, now I do. Yeah.
That was easy. She asked if I wanted some water. Why? Yeah.
Okay. Flat water or bubble water?
Oh, flat. Yeah.
I think I saw. Frankie, what's one of these your sons that I saw here? Right next to you. This one.
Anywhere you want to sit.
It doesn't look like it.
I don't know if I should. Maybe I should just stay here before I'm by you. I don't know. It's really distracting.
No, wherever you want to sit is fine.
Okay, I just don't want to be.
Oh no.
I'm just trying to.
I'm way back here.
We'll wing it. It'll be fine.
Okay.
The one that say your Aunt Carol. Aunt Carol. I'm Aunt Carol. Nice to meet you.
I don't have a spot now.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Someone needs to take pictures. Yeah, Waylon's taking pictures. Oh, Waylon's taking pictures. Anybody who wants to take pictures? Great. If you don't want to, that's good too. Okay. My name's Angela, for the one person in the room that I don't know, and that would be you. No, the lady. Is that Pamela? What? Is that Pamela? Hi, Pamela. Okay.
Oh, darling. You know it's Carol.
I met her.
Okay.
Now I'm officially, now I know everybody.
So far, so good.
I'm the MC.
That's actually the best job.
First time. So I just want to say hi, and I'm glad you guys are here. And so
Yeah.
David is going to come up, and he's going to read something because Heidi wanted him to, and I think that'll be nice. And then he's going to, then my mom's going to come up, and she has some words to say. And then everybody can talk and say anything if they feel so moved. And just let me know when I come out, and then I can introduce you, or it'll just work out. Okay? So David's going to come up.
I'll do it after he sits
And David is
I did it, Pam.
Vicky's brother. I didn't get to say that. David is my brother.
By the way, Mom, these are beautiful.
Those are beautiful.
Memories. Read that. So I think the reason Heidi wanted me to read a little, or say a little bit, or play a little bit, whatever it is, that at the end there, Vicky and I spent several days. What Heidi thought was studying the Bible. It wasn't exactly.
A little bit louder.
Oh, louder?
Yes,
Okay.
you need
Sorry.
to. Yeah, much louder.
Much louder?
Wait. I got a mic on my phone if you need it.
Anyway, so Vicky and I started doing this book study. On the day that I drove her down from Heidi's house to Carol's house, we had, because Vicky didn't want to ride in Mom's car, even though it was a little bigger and more comfortable, because she was worried that if the oxygen tank Sorry.
Take your time, but we're here.
If the oxygen tank had to be changed, she was worried that my mom would get stuck having to do that, might have trouble. And she'd already run out of oxygen at one of her appointments, and it was a little bit of a crisis for her. So she's, I'm going to ride with you. And so we rode together. And Chucky and his van brought all the oxygen concentrator and all this stuff. Well, Chucky's got an older van. It's classic van. So it took him, actually, we had to sit out in front of the house even after we got here, after talking all the way from Lancaster. And Vicki had some questions. She knows I belong to a Christian church, and she wanted to know more. And she asked me some questions. And I happen to, I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous, and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous does talk about God and prayer, and even when they call it a higher power, it's God. And one of the contributors to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson gave 3 references. One was the King James Bible. The other was a little pamphlet book by Henry Drummond called The Greatest Thing in the World. And the third thing was Emmett Fox, The Sermon on the Mount. And in fact, the early alcoholics, before they had the book, would use Emmett Fox. And the first office in New York, the AA office where they were doing meetings, was right next to this concert hall, and they would go in and hear lectures by Emmett Fox. So, and Emmett Fox is not exactly the Bible. I mean, he's Christian based and Bible based, but he's a little bit anti-ecclesiastic. So it's not all priests, they appreciate it, but they don't appreciate it. So, because one of the things Jesus said was, "You won't find God in a building.
It's in your heart."
Yes, the kingdom of God is within you. Meaning, not in the church is a man-made thing, which is okay. But and like I said, I use it because I need the structure myself as an alcoholic. Right? It helps me, but it's not necessary. Everyone has access to God. So Vicky's favorite part of this book that we read, and we read for a few hours waiting for Chucky, and then it became a daily thing. As long as she had energy, she'd have a hard time, adding much because of the oxygen shortage and being out of breath. But she would, as long as she could take it, she'd listen for an hour or so. So her favorite part was the chapter 2, the Beatitudes. I'm just going to read like a page and a half. So chapter 2, the Beatitudes. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you, and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely, for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. And that's Matthew 5. Then it starts with Emmett Fox. The Sermon on the Mount opens with the 8 Beatitudes. This, of course, is one of the best known sections of the Bible. Even people whose knowledge of the scriptures is confined to a half a dozen of the most familiar chapters are sure to know the Beatitudes. They hardly ever understand them, unfortunately, and as a rule, look upon them as a counsel of perfection without any real application to everyday life. But this is only because they lack the spiritual key. The Beatitudes are actually a prose poem in 8 verses, which is complete in itself, and it constitutes, which is practically a general summary of the whole Christian teaching. It is a spiritual more than a literary synopsis, summarizing the spirit of the teaching rather than the letter. A general summing up such as this is highly characteristic of the old Oriental mode of approach to a religious and philosophical teaching, and it naturally recalls the eightfold path of Buddhism and the 10 Commandments of Moses and other such compact groupings of ideas. Jesus concerned himself exclusively with the teaching of general principles, and these general principles always had to do with mental states, for he knew that if one's mental states are right, everything else must be right too, whereas if these are wrong, nothing else can be right. Unlike the other great religious teachers, he gives no detailed instructions about what we are to do or not to do. But he does not tell us either to eat or to drink or to refrain from eating or drinking certain things, or to carry out various ritual observances at certain times and seasons. Indeed, the whole current of his teaching is anti-ritualistic and anti-formalist. He had little patience at any time with the Jewish priesthood and its theory of salvation through the temple observances. The hour cometh when ye shall neither in the mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. The hour cometh, and now is when the true worshiper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The Pharisees, with their appalling code of outward detailed observances, were the only people towards whom he was really intolerant. A conscientious Pharisee of those days, and most of them were extremely conscientious according to their lights, had an enormous number of outer details to attend to every day before he could feel that he had satisfied the requirements of God. A modern rabbi has estimated the number of such details not less than 600. And as it is obvious that no human being could really carry out this sort of thing in practice, the natural result would be that the victim, conscious of falling short of the accomplishment of his duties, must necessarily labor under a chronic sense of sin. Now, to believe yourself to be sinful is, for practical purposes, to be sinful, with all the consequences that follow upon that condition. The policy of Jesus, in that his object is rather to wean the heart from relying upon. I'm almost there. Relying upon outer things at all, either for pleasurable gratification or for spiritual salvation, and to inculcate a new attitude of mind altogether. And this policy is graphically set forth in the Beatitudes. And I will speak later about Vicky, but this was the spiritual reading that we were studying. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Carol?
I'll answer this. Can you keep your feet? I know, just open it, and I had to get Baby back to see.
Just tell people about the.
I really like that.
Yeah, but later. Yeah. Oh, you're hot.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, I want to tell everybody that I wear hearing aids, and therefore, uh, it magnifies the sound in my ears. I think I'm talking much louder, and when I'm just talking loud enough for you to hear me, I feel like I'm shouting.
You're okay.
So I very much appreciate people, that let me know, because I can't do it by myself. I need your help.
There you go.
If I'm
Got
talking loud enough.
Got your back in front.
I wrote this, my Victoria, because I just knew that unless you knew her, you couldn't even begin to understand the complexity of knowing people and the contradictions and the wonderful things and all the things. And I, started doing it like you should do, a chronological kind of an account, and it didn't work at all. Becky's life was not chronological.
Had its own timeline.
She can't hear you. So what I came up with was that, to me, I wanted to use the image of a bouquet, that putting all these things together in our life throughout the years could be brought across by the image of a bouquet. And so that's what I'm going to do. And so don't expect things to come in the order that they happened, or whatever. Just, okay. And I'm going to get to the elephant in the room. Okay. And this is mostly for those of us in Vicky's family, and that is that we loved her dearly. But also, there's things that we had to resolve. And so I wrote something that it's not a poem, but it sort of is like one. And anyway, I just wanted to sum her up in the beginning. A few days before Vicky died, she summed it up for a situation. She said, no future. No future. And in 2 words, she just, as usual, hit it right on the head, No, fancy words. So the thing about Vicky is that she's probably the most aware person I've ever known, in the sense of what's going on in the world and the injustices. I mean, she just truly felt it with every fiber in her body. And she especially extended this to the natural world and animals. To those of us who are close, maybe not so much. So here it is. Her feelings sometimes swerved, leaving the object of her anger unnerved. But sooner or later, fences were mended and hostilities suspended. Now, back to the bouquet. I'm going to start with some Vicky's early experience. When Vicky was 15 years old, her father died, my first husband, and she was entitled to a Social Security payment each month. So she used that to emancipate herself. And she went to Berkeley to join her sister who attended Laura, the university. And then so her life was, of course, she had the support of Laura to an extent, but Laura was a kid herself and living her own life. And Vicky, as they said, these are the days of, sex, drugs, and rock and roll for Vicky. And as far as that period of life, thank you. I thought I would put in some baby's breath because it's just sort of. Thank you. All right, good. Thank you. All right. Here's some baby's breath. Now, so anyway, Vicky, of course, was part of the political activities, the anti-war movement, and she was a kid, and she was with the other people. They were hiding in bushes when the Berkeley police, basically were rampaging against the students. I mean, it's, as we know, the police are likely to do. And so, even as a kid, she was hiding in the bushes. And, but, she was, that was, and throughout her life, things were precarious for her. Her existence was precarious. But that actually never daunted Vicky. She went right ahead and, survived. As a mother, it was something else. That the kids were out there on the streets, making it as best they could. But I also knew Vicky. And then there's other periods in her life that have occurred from time to time throughout her life. And that is when she came home for periods of time. Sometimes for months, sometimes much longer. And, and lived in LA. She worked at the health center, for example, and she was a receptionist, and helpful in general. But things, that happened to Vicky were always kind of exceptional. Like one day, she called us frantically to television and said, "I'm being arrested." And she was just walking from one of our locations on Trenton, a few blocks, to our clinic, carrying some forms and stuff. And the cops stopped her. They wanted to check for tracks. Okay? And yes, she was beautiful, and of course she was in jeans, and of course she probably was smoking a cigarette. But I know that's the only reason that she had to be hassled, and so these things happen to Vicky, okay? Throughout her life, she had some hair-raising things, and a lot of them were just totally without her being at fault whatsoever. But very. Now, so for these periods of being at our house, I'm picking some ferns And sometimes she lived in an apartment. Sometimes she, you know, had a partner at different times. And in fact, um, actually, many men fell in love with Vicky over the years. And some of them she also fell in love with and married. And the first one was Bobby Carol Topper. Bobby was an Italian American from Brooklyn. And, you know, like Vicky, he got his guitar and went to Berkeley, you know, to be part of the scene. And he's such a sweet guy, really, you know, young guy. And the two of them went to back to Brooklyn, to where his family was. And one of the women at the health center, Terry Albright, and I, and Frankie and Angela, when they were kids.
And David.
What?
And David.
And you?
Yeah, I stayed there.
What?
And David.
And David. And David.
And David. Oh, okay. I know you went to up to South Dakota with us, but I forgot that. Anyway, we went to the funeral. I mean, to the wedding. Well, Vicky had gotten a few thousand, and Bobby had gotten a few thousand in money gifts. That was the custom in their culture in Brooklyn. And so they said, "Come stay with us at the
Waldorf.
hotel Waldorf Astoria."
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but the best, right? So here, these two kids, you know, with these few $1,000s that they had, and treating all of us. I mean, nothing would suit them, but we had to stay with them. You know, living the life of luxury for a few days for their honeymoon. And you know, that just reflected her whole life. I mean, you know, if she had it, it was yours.
There you go.
And she didn't count the passing of it. I mean, it was just, it's mine, take it, you know. And so at any rate, with Bobby, who was a really sweet guy, when they were no longer wanting to be married, they did it very peacefully and respectfully. I don't know, not perfectly, but well. And this is true for other relationships with men, with one exception. And I'm going to put a rose here to symbolize, you know, these romantic relationships that she had. And oh my goodness!
Oh, I got you.
So much.
I got you.
Thank you, honey. And let me say that we all know that roses have thorns, okay?
Yeah.
Well,
It hurt.
the next relationship that Vicky ended up with Mary was with a guy that was David's friend, and they hit it off, and it unfortunately it did not go well, and ended up being a thorny situation. You know, basically forever. You know, throughout her life. But the thing about it is that she would never have undone that. She would never have regretted it for a moment, because that was when she had Heidi, her daughter. And I think I speak freely that Vicky would always say this was absolutely the most wonderful, precious thing that ever happened in her entire life. And I've selected a bird paradise to symbolize, you know, the significance Heidi's in her life.
Excellent.
By the way, with Florence, when I went to get these flowers, she didn't have any in the stock. And she actually went out and looked in her little garden outside the window
Excellent.
and cut this for me. So I need to talk about her, how she, the next relationship, which was Robert. Robert was a big ex-Marine, a very large-hearted, fundamentally very decent man, and he was a taxi driver. And that's when Vicky became a taxi driver. You know, it turned out she really was very suited for driving a taxi. She loved to drive, and she also liked getting acquainted with everybody that she met. You know, and hearing their stories and sharing. But, you know, taxi driving is also a seriously dangerous. And in fact, and Vicky went through these hair-raising things. I mean, many times people attempted to rob her, etc. But with her own quick wit, she always, you know, dealt with most of them. One time, however, she was assaulted and was seriously injured to the extent of, you know, knocking out her teeth, you know. So, but that didn't stop her. But what it did do was to make her lead a movement to get barriers in taxi cabs.
There you go.
To make a barrier and protect the driver. And with Laura's help and my daughter Shelby giving a lot of her support there, she set up office and organized the taxi drivers. And they had a taxi strike that basically closed down things in Oakland for a few hours. You know, dozens and dozens of taxis honking their horns around the major hotels and the airport and so forth. He turned the city, and I have the picture here somewhere, but I don't have it with me. You know, the strike. And so for this, actually, the gladiolus represent, you know, her action. That she didn't just think about these things. She actually did whatever she could to express her, you know, political goals. But Vicky did a lot of things. I mean, for example, she went to clown school. And she was a happy clown, you know, and she'd go to the vacationers there and Fisherman's Wharf and go through the crowd and make little balloons for the kids and, you know, that kind of thing. She loved being a clown. So, you know, but unfortunately, tragedy struck. Well, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Because she and Robert parted ways. She was alone, living in Oakland, driving cabs, and being politically active. When she went to Andronicus to buy some health food things, they were kind of pre-Trader Joe type place. And as she's walking out, this very handsome guy was walking in. He smiled back. And that was Siegel. And Irv was, you know, this very, very interesting person. He did not lose a beat. He found this beautiful woman that he loved, and the first date. At the first date, he came over to her apartment, driving his new fancy, um, mini RV, camper, and treating her to coffee and donuts and and within a pretty short time they were married. And they moved. Irv was instructor for pilots at the commercial jet pilots, and he also was in community theater. And Vicki, and they got married, of course. Put in another. At any rate, Vicki accompanied him when he went to the theater, the community theater. But she spent her days raising money for the elephants and participating in demonstrations there at the amusement park up in Venetia, because the elephants didn't get proper exercise and care. So, this period of her life, I can put in the lilies, because lilies spread this wonderful aroma, and her relationship with Irv was extremely positive. They both, it was very, they did everything and participated. But then, unfortunately, Irv was diagnosed with cancer. And, they faced, what do you do when you're diagnosed with cancer, right? You cut back. Well, they didn't. They did not cut back. In fact, they decided to buy a huge RV, not just a little RV, but the biggest RV you can get. And they drove back to New York to the Mayo Clinic to take some tests and get treatment and so forth. And then they took it down to Florida to live a few months.
Wow.
And the thing is that, Irv's health was very compromised at this time. But Heidi was an extremely good nurse and watched his medications, his activities, his treatments, and they had a wonderful time, even though, they backed into a few filling station pumps.
Yeah. Tight squeeze.
So they came back, and Vicki continued to be with Aaron and help make his life as comfortable as possible. And he did die in bed in his own home with her and in her arms. And, I just want to say we all still grieve for Irv. He was a very wonderful addition to our family. But that was not the end of things for Vicki. She recouped, and she thought she'd be a pet sitter. She went through all the rigmarole of getting licensed, the whole thing. But she found out that the Venetia community was so conservative, downright right-wing. She just couldn't, she suffocated her. She didn't have Irv there. And it was just,
All right.
I know
They're just an agreement. They're hollering for Vicky. Okay.
You will take a minute. They haven't expressed themselves yet.
My dog howls when the roosters go off. I'm never going to understand that. They can really hear.
Vicky had a cat in Venetian, and this cat loved to play cat. And right where Cassidy is sitting, and I'd be Vicky, he would toss the ball, and Shadow would catch it always, and then he'd run it back over to her again. So she and Shadow moved to Arizona, and Vicky got a horse. And, she just really loved it. And there's a picture up there. It's the one that we put on the cover. No, not the cover, but it's in there.
Inside.
And it's the blow up. And it shows how radiantly happy she was to be with this horse. She rode the horse, unfortunately. She fell a couple times, broke bones. She kind of had to give that part up. But she still loved being with her horse. And let's see here. At that time, she took advantage. And I'm sorry to take a long time, but I think you can see.
No.
Essential, if you didn't know this about her, you would have missed a big thing. Is that she was a playwright. She wrote several plays during this period, and they were very excellent. She wrote about the immigrant situation at the Mexican border, at the U.S.-Mexican border. One was called Desert Crossing, and very dramatic. She has a real feeling for accent and dialogue. And then she also had another called Cheap Labor, which was about homelessness.
It was a comedy.
Squatters,
It was a comedy.
Oh, it was a comedy. Well, Vicky,
Very funny.
she had a rich sense of humor. I mean, she was a crack up. I mean, really. And not a cheap joke, but they were all just really sharp, right? The things that just, like, wow, she hit it on the head. And it was a wonderful play. Now, she thought about entering it in a contest, but she never did. And, in doing this, I realized something about my daughter that took me 65 years to really, truly understand.
Of course
that
he is.
competition was a disincentive. A disincentive. I mean, she wasn't going to, by making it a contest, that killed it for her. They just wasn't worth it.
Good girl.
And,
We'll tell you later, Grandma.
Thank you. Well, this existence that she had and she found out in Arizona that a very conservative state, they don't have monopolies of cab companies. And, usually, like in the city of LA, there's just one or two or three cab companies, and they get a medallion, and they get the right, to charge, etc. And but they didn't have that in Arizona, so she started her own cab company, and David helped her to get her car up to speed for the job, and she painted it and so forth. And she did very well, and in maintaining her lifestyle. And she picked up passengers at the airport and at the train station, things like that. And she was doing excellently. But, unfortunately, she tripped on a crack in the sidewalk.
and I went and saw this crack. And it was still there, if you can believe. This was a couple years after her injury. The city cared so little that I could see the crack. And underneath it was an underground stream. But the negligence was clear. But they haggled over who was responsible. Was it the city? Was it the state? Was it the county? And they put her off for years. Meanwhile, she's having to deal with, dentures and not getting her proper treatment. And it took a very skilled attorney and a couple of years to wrangle enough money out of him, for her to get implants. By this time, Uber had moved in, and she was harassed. It was a cutthroat deal, and so she decided to move on. She came to California and went to work for Lyft, and moved to Santa Barbara. She lived in the mountains behind the city, a very lovely encampment, a village there, along with Shadow. And then Shadow went missing, and he was not to be found. And it was really already, quite difficult. I mean, this thing, and the pandemic hit. And that meant that the taxi business consisted mostly of essential workers who were themselves exposed to the virus. And so she really decided that was not what she could do. So she came to LA. Frankie helped her to get, I don't know if it was the same RV or a new RV or a different RV, but the point is she still had her RV that she was living in. And he helped her get it fixed up. And she went to live in Yuma, Arizona, where she found a trailer park that was within her means. And that's when, unfortunately, her health rapidly declined. And, that brought her home to us. By the time her illness was diagnosed, it was already, irreversible. And it was a matter of, weeks before Vicky died. And so I'm going to put all these in here. And as I said, as I summed up here, I said, we rejoice in the love and of the successes, and we feel sorry for her misfortune. But we truly mourn the loss. But she remains here in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We got to tell her why we were laughing.
We don't have to tell her, she can hear it.
Yeah. Doggy
Hi,
totally
everybody.
agreed.
So, well, anybody who wants to say something can come up, but I'll just take my turn now. I think that was good, Mom.
Oh, okay.
It was nice that you kind of laid all that out.
Yeah.
And so, Vicky's my sister. Vicky's forever to me. She's my big sister, so I've never known a time without Vicky. And, I'm in the habit of kind of organizing my life sometimes by saying real quick, Laura, Vicky, David, Shelby, like, and I've caught myself doing that a million times. And I had the same problem when my dad left. You know, mom, dad, same thing. But I still say dad and put him on my Christmas list. And I'm same with Vicky. Still gonna put Vicky on my Christmas list. But personally, I don't really feel like Vicky's gone. I mean, she's not here to see her, and I'm gonna really miss seeing her because Vicky's really funny, super funny. This family is. I was lucky enough to be born into a really funny family. Humor is, I mean, we're talking like a super group, like the Bee Gees or the. Everybody is virtuoso, you know. But Vicky, the writer, not the only one, there's a bunch of writers too. But Vicky is just, there's just a special flavor, you know? It's like a flavor that, it's like I miss that flavor already, you know? And, yeah, she had a temper. You know, everybody knows that. She had a temper. Everybody has a temper. Hers could be like a little harder to get over because it was just a temper, you know, it's like a hot temper. It burns fast. But the minute she was over it, she was over it. Doesn't mean you're over it. But
Oh, that part.
but, you know, that's just a really small part. Actually, that's a really small part of who Vicky was. It's not the defining characteristic of her. Because Vicky has a certain intelligence. You know, people are smart in different ways. Vicky has an intelligence that was just, it was, you know, more, I want to say panoramic or just larger in scope than your average person. You know, especially in terms of, you know, justice. She had a really keen sense of injustice of other people, poor people, people of color, people, you know, just anybody oppressed. She just had it, was really tuned to that. And I think sometimes that made her life hard. When you're tuned into that station, a lot of crap comes your way. And I think that being tuned into that station had two sides to it. And sometimes she saw the darker side, and she lived the darker side sometimes. And I just mean that, you know, she was willing to go there, but also, you know, just sort of, you know, that was her reality moment. But she also was intelligent about people and nuances. Very good at that. And kind. So she understood. If she wasn't wrapped up in it personally, which is true for all of us, if we're not kind of caught up in our own stuff, you know, we can see a little better. But she was really gifted with that kind of wisdom. She always had that. Also, she was a great big sister. Really fun for Frankie and me because she was older than we were and she was so generous. She would just like have a stack of dollars. She'd get paid at the health center. She's probably about 20 or 25 or different times, right? And she'd have a stack of bills and she'd say, I'll give you $1 if you rub my feet. I'll give you $1 if you give me a glass of water. I'll give you $1 if you go across the street and buy me a candy bar. I'll give you $1 if you open the window. And she just pass out these dollars, right? So she had made everything fun for us that way. She was a lot of fun that way. And I think she gets that from her older sisters. I think they get it from their dad. This kind of elevated sense of like, let's make it magical. So, you know, Vicky had that. And super generous. You know, really generous. And I gotta say, Vicky is one of the prettiest people I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she got the looks, she got the goods. She was really pretty. And really pretty. And also really gracious. She moved with grace. And, you know, physically gifted, but also she was, you know, she wasn't tacky, you know, she knew how to hold herself together and she was gracious. Unfortunately, like a lot of beautiful people did not know she was beautiful. She's the only one who missed out on that because, well, you know, a lot of us are like that. You know, we don't appreciate ourselves enough. We we don't get to see ourselves the way we're, through eyes of love. I'm sorry for her that she didn't get to appreciate that beauty because Vicky was just a knockout. And let's see, smart, pretty, nice. So I'm gonna really miss Vicky. And I just want to say one more thing that's personal about myself is that I didn't see Vicky that often. She didn't live in LA for large chunks, and I really didn't see her that often. So Vicky was always pretty much in my heart, mostly, or on the phone sometimes. So not a lot has changed for me in that way. But when my dad died, it was really hard at first, of course, like devastating. And it took some time for me to make the shift from going, "Where are you, Dad?" to really making the shift to where I felt like he was with me all the time, like driving. He loved driving. All the things my dad and I shared, we still share them. I still talk to my dad all the time, and I feel him. And with Vicky, I think it's going to even happen faster. It's already happening. Vicky, to me, she's not gone. She's just not here, but I'm so happy that I get to keep this relationship because it's really, like David said, it's an irreplaceable part of this puzzle that, it's important for me to stay intact. And I really love my family. I mean, I am family crazy. Everybody knows I'm family crazy. That's all I ever do is think about, we got to get together. We got to have a barbecue. We have to have a drink. We have to have a breakfast. We have to That's all I ever think of. It's my life, my kids, and my family. And so having this little family member leave has not been pleasant. It's been hard. And I don't want anyone else to leave for a while. And
There you go.
I want you all to know
There
that
you
you're
go.
actually here in the bodies right now. I want you guys to know I am crazy about you. I'm crazy about you, and I want to be better at some of this. I want to be better. I want to be a better friend to my siblings, and there's room. There's room to grow more. Grow it out a little bit, okay? And I love Alicia, who's part of our family now, and a big part of our family. Yep, Carol. I love you, Carol, my Aunt Carol. And new friends. And Kathy, and Bob, Mom, and Amy, Heidi, I love you, and that's it. Anybody wants to talk to me? And Brian. Anybody wants to come up? Super great MC. Yeah.
Didn't like sitting on the floor.
Glad that my mom covered so much of Vicky's life. And like all of us, there's so much. There's so many sides to a person's life, but like Angela said, to me, Vicky's my big sister. And as the youngest out of 6 kids, I've always just been lucky to be the beneficiary of parents,
uncles and all these sisters and brothers that make your life kind of easy. You know, not everybody has that, and I was lucky. And Vicky really liked playing that role for me. You know, when I was a little kid, we used to walk around the neighborhood here. She pushed me around in the stroller, and she'd tell me, "Just tell everybody I'm your mom." That's my mom. Just call me mommy. and so we'd walk around, and people would say, "Oh, he's cute," and I would say, "Oh, mommy." And she would play this game. She'd just tell everyone I'm your mommy, and she loved shocking everybody because she must have been a teenager, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And she loved, you know, just shocking them, you know. Just they were like, "Oh,
Oh.
and we just, you know, that was fun for us, you know. And you know, and she liked little secrets. And that was like her first little secret, you know. Don't tell me this. Tell everybody I'm your mom, you know. and you know, but she had a big life that, you know, had a lot of different parts of her life. And like I said, she was my big sister, and she liked playing that role, and she liked stuffing little dollars into my pocket, and, you know, telling me how smart I was, or handsome, or, you know, just always made me feel like I could do stuff, you know, because I guess, you know, I think I saw things happening, you know, conflicts happening with different family members, but I always kind of seemed to slide right under the you know, I didn't really have to deal with it, you know, it was always smooth sailing for me, you know.
Yeah.
And and you know, but she took effort to make sure that was the case because she was always looking out for me, you know. And so most of my life, really, that's how Vicky has been, you know, just big sister, nice, generous, and always trying to, you know, get on my good side, not in a bad way, but just not like sneaky, but just like, you know, always like trying to be on the good side, right? And so I'm gonna miss that. I mean, all my siblings have been like that. Now one's gone. God, so many funny stories with Vicky. She was so funny. And she would just crack you up. And she did like secrets. I don't think anybody else mentioned that, but she always said, "Oh, tell anybody this. This is going to be our little secret, right?" And, you know, I always prided myself. I'm never going to tell that secret, you know? And I think I was pretty good at that, you know? But, one little secret that was our secret, but I'm going to tell you guys, is when Herb died, you know, her life changed. She did have some money, a little bit of money, because, you know, this is property and retirement, things like that. I don't know how much money she had, but she made it seem like she had some money. She always, whenever she got a little money, she always wanted to do something nice. And, I mean, you know, Herb, really got a kick out of your flight simulator and how much you love flight simulator. And And you never asked him to teach you any stuff about flying, which is stupid. You know, I don't know what I was thinking because I really want to fly. You know, and she said, you know, I think Herb would want me to help you learn to fly. And she really did help me learn to fly. She sent me money, and she said, don't tell anybody. It's our little secret. And later we visited that again. And I said, well, I'd be happy to tell people. And then then she thought about it, which is something she had said before. And she goes, and this is funny because, you know, Vicky had a way of, she could go to the dark side. You know, she was fun, but she could also see the dark side. And she said, well, don't tell anybody, because if you die in a plane crash, they'll blame you.
That's something she would say.
You know, I considered not even saying anything just because of that. I was so trained from always, you know, trained from the youngest age, you know, to not tell the secret, right? You know, they were always wasn't bad secrets, but you know, just little secrets. And she said she didn't want to be blamed in case I ever died in a plane crash. But it meant a lot to me, you know. And I don't think I would have undertaken it without knowing that I could finish it with, you know, her help. And you know.
So we can now talk about that.
Yeah. So I just miss her. And she's a good big sister.
I love you. Love you, buddy.
You're just loving everybody right now.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about Vicky. I didn't really get to talk about her at all. Because I'm supposed to read some poem and prayer, right? And I did that function. And thank you, Mom. That was a very beautiful synopsis of many parts of Vicky. And I really appreciate that. I love that you put this together. And there's so much to my sister Vicky. You know, today's her birthday, of course.
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
She'd be 65 today. And it's appropriate. Thank you, Heidi, for organizing this and planning it on her birthday. And thank you guys midweek for being here, and the people that are listening. Thank you for attention to Vicky. So Vicky, yeah, she. We talk about an elephant in the room. Well, there was and I think I know too. Vicky was very unique, and more unique than lots of us are unique. Vicky had an especially unique personality that she flew by her instincts all the way, and she could switch up on you and start to hate you because of one little thing, but she could also forget whatever she was mad about just as easy, because she would tell me about this sibling or that sibling or mom or this person or that person, and I learned, just that's gonna change. That's not okay. Well, that doesn't sound quite right, but that's what you remember. But those instincts served her well sometimes, really well. Like when Herb died, they had just bought this $100,000 motorhome. And Irv's sister was an accountant and looked and very usefully and helpfully looked at all the books and said, you know, this you have to give this back right away. You'll be making payments. You know, this will really be a big liability. You got to get rid of that. But Vicky said, no, that stays. And it wound up being her home for years to come. But she couldn't live in that neighborhood anymore, and so she sold that place, moved into that motorhome, and traveled all around. You know, and she got to be here in LA and be out at the beach, go, you know, other states, and she drove around the country in that thing. She loved to drive too. That was part of her driving, like the taxi, and she loved it. But Vicky had a lot of these things, and anyone who's ever heard Vicky say something that you was just like, whoa, where'd that come from? You could just let it go just as easy. She never really hated anybody or wanted to hurt anybody. Never did anything wrong to anybody that I know of. She could say some really hostile things, and it was just a toxic little part of it. It wasn't really her. And but Vicky had this relationship with animals. Since one thing I'd like to share is actually, I know why you don't remember that I went with you to New York that time. We made several trips across the country. Always in a VW van.
A little bit louder, David.
Oh. Anyway, you don't remember because I didn't come back with you. Vicky invited me to stay with her and Bobby. And I did. I was just 16 years old. Woo, boy, live in New York for a while. So I did. And Vicky got this dog named Jiva. Which, yeah, I guess that means
I remember
marijuana, some people call it. Jiva. And this dog, Jiva, she rescued it because it was some drug dealer that raised these Doberman pinchers, and Jiva was red, and they were going to drown this puppy because they didn't want red ones. They wanted the high dollar, all the right marking dog. Vicky rescued Jiva, and she didn't clip his ears or his tail, and Jiva and Vicky had some kind of special relationship. Jiva was kind of a crazy dog sometimes. I mean, he could bite. You know, you didn't know when he was gonna turn on you. But anyway, one reason, and Bobby did not like Jiva. Her next husband, Larry, did not like Jiva, except at times.
Jiva didn't like him either.
Because you couldn't, her husbands, they could not raise their voice to Vicky when Jiva was around. Jiva would be right there in their face, ready to fight. But you know, her and Jiva had an understanding. They were viciously faithful to each other. And Jiva, you know, Vicky would go to the mat with anybody to protect her dog, and that dog would do the same for her. I remember one day she drove us to school, to Harry E. Mid-City Alternative School down on Adams Boulevard, right? We're down there in South LA and South Central, and Vicky loved her cigarettes. Boy, get me. She sends me into this little liquor store with a $10 bill. Okay, get my Marlboros. So I went in, and this guy said hi. Hey, how you doing? And I didn't really get it. I get back in the car, and she said, "Where's my change?" I'm like, "Oh, that guy just took it out of my pocket." And what? Well, we're gonna get it back. Go get it. gotta get it back. Oh, I don't know. He went into this, and he went into like this gentleman's club, and there was this big bouncer at the door. This big guy. And Vicky went up there with Jiva and said, "That guy just ripped me off," and Jiva was just. He went in and got her money back. And she one day she called me up. I don't know what it was, but Larry had had enough of Jiva, and he had tied him up to a tree in Griffith Park. And Vicky calls me, "You gotta take me to Griffith Park right now. We're gonna go get Jiva." And she did. She went and got him back. He was still there, tied to a tree. Nobody was gonna take him. Larry actually did like Jiva because Jiva would bite people. He liked that. Yeah, that's
another story.
That's another story. But all her animals, she loved. She would, I think Laura was saying about when they shot that elephant that was mistreated and hurt the owner. She blew up about that. Oh, save those elephants. Yeah. And she educated me about it. I didn't know elephants are there, at the zoo. No, they're being in they're in captivity, and they're abused, and they have health problems, and they're emotionally, sensitive animals. Wow, okay, she really meant it. All her animals, and there's many stories like Frankie said about Vicky that are just wow, crazy. To think she went through that, and the home birth of Heidi. Wow, that was just like wow, I can't believe it. And there's pictures of it, but I remember she said, take pictures. You're gonna take pictures.
Hi.
Even if she could have had, when I asked her about it, it was such a hard birth because you were breached, and they had to get and the midwife couldn't handle it, and they called this doctor that had to come with his nurse. They
Flip you around.
Let you out. But she was in horrible pain. I remember asking her, was that worth going through all that pain? You could have been in a hospital and give you drugs. She's like, even if I could have afforded it, had insurance, I wouldn't have done it different. She did. Believe that was. It was worth every ounce of pain. She did say that. Many insights that I've had from her, but I'm gonna let other people talk. Thank you again, Heidi.
I'll say something. I'm introducing Laura now.
Hi, Laura.
Hello. So I'm Vicky's big sister. I was sitting here thinking of jokes, Vicky jokes. And I think I thought of three. I can think of so many, but I can't think of any that I can tell that well. So if I don't tell it well,
Get over it.
I forgive you. I mean, forgive me. So when Vicky was driving a cab in Oakland, if I were to tell you who she was and what she did, I promise you would not believe her. The only reason you might believe me is that if I had kept copies of all the newspaper articles and TV interviews, and every time somebody from the upper world, not the underworld of taxi drivers, from the upper world crossed Vicky's path, they just couldn't believe their eyes. They wrote newspaper articles about it, TV interviews about it. They just couldn't believe that this taxi driver was so thoroughly. Vicky helped everybody and was so helpful and so much a part of the community. So here's some of these jokes about Vicky in the community.
one of them that always cracked me up. Vicky was skinny and teeny and blonde hair and a little skinny thing. And she's out there in taxi land in Oakland. Honey, this is like hardcore capitalism. Fight, fight, fight. She wore this big old jacket and she got this attitude. And the people that she went to be the best. She didn't go to be some loser taxi driver. She went to make some dough. And the people who were making the dough and they had the power of it were these Nigerian drivers. These gigantic, handsome, strong, warrior kind of guys. I mean, they were big, strong, organized competitors. Here comes Vicky. And she competed and competed and she competed so much. And in her heart, so deeply. She told me one day, somebody said, so what are you doing? Why are you working hard? And she said, I'm saving up my money to go home to Nigeria for Christmas. You know, that was Vicky. At the time that there was this huge racist anti-Mexican thing here in California, and Vicky was just heartbroken. And we made a sign for her cab that said, I heart mojados, wetbacks. I heart wetbacks. And she put this in her cab. And the only thing that like really was so sad, it was just like, I have to say, it was kind of like funny. But still, she would come home often. And the poor Mexican guy or gal would get into her cab and they would start talking to her. Vicky would say, oh, no habla español. And she said it perfectly because our grandma taught us how to speak Spanish. So she could beautifully say, I don't speak Spanish. And they would hear that and they would start speaking back to her. And they didn't know that all she really knew how to say is, I want more grapes and I don't speak Spanish. So she was just cracked off it. And they'd be going, in Spanish, and you'd be like, but they never believed it. But she made these relationships with people anyway. But one time she got this was one that came out in the newspaper. Some poor mojado got off the bus in San Francisco and got in, and Vicky said, where are you going? He said, oh, Sacramento. Cool, Sacramento Street is over there. Sacramento town is 90 minutes and 90 miles away. And sure enough, she took him home to Sacramento, where he needed to go and make his hookup. And some reporter heard it or saw it. There were all these things where when not normal people, but when upper class people would look down and see what Vicky was doing. So those were two jokes. Let's see, I thought of another little one. Mojado. The other ones are so hard to tell. Well, if I think of it, I'll come back up. But Vicky was fun. She was a delight to be a part of her life. And all of us were just going to miss so much. How sharp. This is not funny. When she was living in Oakland and doing the thing with the Nigerians and the fighting with the cabs and every deal, this is before she was becoming an organizer. She was just trying to make some money. She was so deeply involved with the neighborhood and the community of Oakland, which was in great part foreign-born nationals who had these like little stores and shops and the poor folk there. She was so deeply into that, that at that point, who was like so politically cool, and my friends who were also like, we're all politically cool about everything, and thought we knew everything, over and over again. The person who knew when the next invasion was going to be, what the laws were changing, what was happening all around. She heard it from the guy at the 7-Eleven, the Yemeni guy who told her about the invasion of the American imperialist pigs. And I'll be damned. Here we were, all of us smarty pants, and it was always Vicky who knew before the rest. And so, of course, it made me smarter because I could then say, well, you know, I think that it's going to happen to such and such and such and such. So Vicky always made me look really good in that way.
Right on.
Yeah, she was lovely. So if I think of the last joke that I thought of or the last funny thing, I'll tell you. But thank you very much. I love Vicky and we'll miss her.
I know.
Oh, glasses. Whose glasses does?
Always helps.
The 70s, and Vicky and I kind of hung out together, and with her friend Terry also, who was also a feminist, and I was a very dreamy youth, and I was a philosophy major, and I had a lot of ideas in my mind, and I'd been secretary of a socialist party, and I was party activities in another city, and now I was there acting as a feminist, and I kept getting into all these awkward situations, and they seemed to involve men. And I was a young woman. I'm a lesbian. I was a young woman, and one day Vicky said, "You have to come with me, and we have to you have to listen to what Terry and I have to say to you." And Terry said, "Kathy, how hot is it in here?" I said, "It's about 73 degrees." And she said, "On the thermometer, it's exactly 73 degrees." She said, "How high is that ceiling there?" I said, "Oh, it's a little over 8 feet." She said, "I happen to know it's a little over 8 feet." She said, "Numbers and ideas are alive to you. You know about them, you're familiar with them. But what you know about men would fill the navel of an ant and leave room for the Chinese Constitution," which is very long at the time. That's the kind of thing I would know. So she actually, they said, "Look, your mother was kind of a nut. She didn't tell you certain things, and we're going to tell you." And so, they told me how to be social with men without leading them in to believe things that were not true, like I was falling in love with them, or, because I was speaking passionately about my personal life and ideas. And they told me when that was appropriate and when that was not appropriate. And I have to tell you that Vicky really was a friend to me. She really did contribute to my socialization like an older sister, even though she's a couple of years younger than me. And I really appreciate it, and I have remembered it throughout my life. Some of the things she told me still guide my social behavior today. So thank you, Vicky. I hope, and I'm sure you're telling them how it works wherever you are.
I'm the butt end. I thought of the other funny thing. So this isn't so much of a joke. And it's, well, it was a wit. So here's Vicky. We already went into she's a babe. She's babelicious. Poor thing. She listened to every man she ran into. Anyway, she was in New York. She got this job in a factory making these monkeys. You have one.
Donnell, after I had Donnell and you had Frederico.
Of these monkeys. This factory where she's supposed to be making monkeys in the factory. So Vicky tells me the story of the monkeys and her work as a factory worker. So, I wasn't working in the factory. She said, "Oh, I don't know." "Well, what do you mean? Oh, that pervert." "What do you mean that pervert?" "Oh, he chased me around the table. He did this, he did that. He put his hand on my dress. He bugged me this way. Total sexual harassment. Not a word we knew, but, big story, right?" I said, "Oh, that just sounds like a nightmare. It sounds terrible." Vicky says, "Terrible? Are you kidding me? I got 2 monkeys and a raise every time he chased me." He said to me, Rape is just bad sex. And that was Vicky. She did not, she was a gal to be reckoned with. And we loved her and we laughed a lot. And so you got the monkey. She got the monkeys in a raise every time he permed out on her. That's the way to get work at the factory, according to Vicky.
Hi guys.
Heidi, is anything going on?
Just checking with the Zoom. Everything working?
Everything's fine.
Okay, good. So we're free to keep saying anything we want. It doesn't have to be here, and or not.
I
And
guess
we have
I'll go.
and Heidi, who's my niece that I love. Vicky's daughter would like to say a few words.
Yeah.
Come on up, Heidi. You need some glasses? I don't know.
It really helps.
Oh yeah, no wonder everyone.
Duh. I'll got your back and front.
I know I waited till last. I've dreaded this moment for months. Because it makes it so final. I wish that I had the more diligence to put together something written, like my grandma did. I tried. Talk about the world's worst case of writer's block since February 25th. Because I have so much in my head I want to write, but none of it will come out on paper. So I'll just do what my mom always told me to do. Well, just wing it. Well, I've been winging it every day since that day. But I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you are.
Gosh, what can I say? My mom was fun. Where do I even start? One of my earliest childhood memories, and this is going to be funny probably at my expense, but that's okay. It was when I was 5 or 6. We lived in Redondo Beach at the time. And I would go outside and stand on the porch of the door, and I don't know what got into me or what makes children do these type of things that they do. But I had decided to start yelling at every passerby that would walk by to go down to the beach. We were only maybe 2-3 blocks away from the ocean. And I would call them every name in the book that you can think of. People would walk by and say, "Hey, you bitch! It's our beach! Get the hell out of here! Hey, you fucker! What are you doing?" You know, and here's my mom back there laughing. People say, "Aren't you going to do anything?" She'll grow out of it. Well, she was right. I think it only lasted a few weeks, and I guess after that. You know, I never got punished for it. Never got sent to my room. Never got a spanking. She never said anything to me about it. She would just have to sit there and laugh. I think she thought it was as funny as I did. But no, I picked today, as her birthday. Of course, first my mom was a daughter, then she was a sister, and she was an aunt, and she was my mom. And I couldn't think of a better day to celebrate her life than today.
I didn't get time to do it. I'm going to do it probably later today or tomorrow. But my mom had, as was mentioned, a lot of passions. And one of those was raising money for elephants, for people in need. So starting today, every year, I will start either a GoFundMe or fundraise for the elephants to donate in her name. So that legacy
Unique, number one. Number one on the list.
Gosh, I had a million things I wanted to say before I stood up here. But one thing I know for sure is toward the end of her life, I relearned something that I already knew, is that sometimes it takes a small village to get something done. And when she got sick, that was no exception. And she did spend, a week at my house, and we had a lot of good times. It was hard, it wasn't all good, but we spent a lot of good time together. It was good quality time. And then, of course, we inevitably, got into a spat. But it was only because she was scared and I was having trouble coping. And of course, we forgave each other very quickly. But I'm also grateful for that little spat, because it was in that moment, and I didn't recognize it at that time, but that was the moment I called out to Grandma and I said, I need help. I can't do this alone. I need help. And the very next day, Grandma was there, Frankie was there, and I had all the support that I needed, and so did she. And at the time, I saw it as a weakness, and it made me really sad. But now I realized that making that phone call and asking for help was the bravest thing I could do for both of us at that time. And it was the right decision, because for her final week, she was here, surrounded by her family, every step of the way, and she embraced and faced her own death with so much bravery that if any of us had half of that bravery, I think we'd do okay. And she tried to make me promise not to be sad when she died, and I'm glad that's something I told her I couldn't promise. It was not something I could keep. Going through her things, I discovered a lot of things. Her most private things, her most precious things, were pictures of all of you, of all of us. That was her treasure. Among those things, and I came across a few, she picks things up from the Grand Canyon or from this travel or that travel. But I came across a few big necklaces of, just little precious gemstones. Nothing of great value, except that it's invaluable because it was hers. But I found someone that took these necklaces apart and put them together in smaller pieces, because I wanted each of my aunts to have one of these pieces that was hers. And while I went through her RV, which I'm still not done going through her RV, going through her things is very tough. But when I stumbled on it, it just felt right. It's almost as if I felt that is something that she would want to be done. So I have them here, and they're all, of course, a little different. But, I wanted to share them with, Laura and Angela and Grandma and Janan and Teresa, so that you all have a little piece of that. And just a little reminder. I'm sure I have a million more things I could say, but my mind is just not cooperating very much. But I am very proud of my family for the way it came together and, provided her that comfort and love and, for the last few weeks. Yeah, it definitely took a village to make that happen. And it took a village to make this happen too. So I'm very, very grateful. And, I promised my mom that I'll be okay. And I think I'm left in good hands.
I love you. I'm
Proud of you.
Have some refreshments. Those glasses.
Universal.
So if anybody wants to say anything, that's okay too. And if you don't, then we can have some refreshments. And
Okay.
Damon's gonna make some tacos. And together we're gonna give you guys some tacos, but there's some snacks and stuff and coffee and
Also, the bouquet here. I don't. I have a thing about cut flowers. I just don't like to watch them die. It's depressing. But anyway, they're beautiful, and I would be very happy if people would either take them in totem or by blossoms. And I have some little plastic containers with water in them that people want to use.
Orchids are forever, so that one's mine.
all right.
Good job, Ange.
All right.
Thank you very much.
First time.
Can I just add two little things?
Yes.
Those things where you regret you didn't say anything. Just a couple of things that I'll always remember Vicky's story about when Irv and her went they drove this huge RV into that little gas station. Somehow they got stuck and life got so bad. Irv was sick and Vicky was doing, they were trying so hard to get out of that gas station, but they're stuck. And she said that Irv just laid down in the RV. Just laid down and gave up. And I think about that all the time when life gets hard. It makes me laugh all the time.
Very good.
And the second thing I wanted to say is Vicky, I didn't know her, maybe 16 years, but the whole time I knew her, she kind of came and went. But it was amazing that every time she came back, she seemed to always have things about the family. She was always thinking about the family, even though she was gone. Like she'd come back and she'd do a clown show, like for the kids, she must have really thought about her nieces and nephews while she was gone doing this clown show. And she just seemed like excited to, get back to the family and do that. And she'd come back and say, hey, I thought these papers for your art would do well. And little things like that made me think that she was away from the family, but she was always thinking about the guys.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Don't have an idea like Hawaiian.
Exactly. We're gonna eat tacos, right?
Yeah.
Tacos is a family meal, so that's the one dish that was a constant that we ate.
That worked.
Yeah, at least once a week, our whole life.
Yeah.
And every kid knows exactly how to make the exact same taco. They'll try to make it different.
Oh,
The
the mosquitoes have not
Oh,
struck.
great.
But people should know that we have
Proud of you, baby.
mosquito repellent and we have things if you do get stung.
Okay. Forever.
You're silly. You okay?
Well, they were sitting back. They would have to sting me to taste it.
The light of her life. I think she knows probably not.
I feel her today.
I feel her all the time.
It's a forever, right?
Everything's forever.
Yeah.
We're rich,
Amen.
you know.
Amen.
And,
We'll put it back in a little water, but this
That's okay. That's pretty.
little bit.
in the kitchen.
Did Jory leave now? Is he off? He must be off. I don't know how to see him.
7 people are still in. He might be there, but I'm not sure.
I know. Well, I hope you saw the whole thing. It was so
Oh, I'm
beautiful.
sure
It was
he did.
perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Hey, Uncle Bob.
Good story was a little dusty. Okay, vino break. Baby. Way you did good. But when I did it, she was bringing me like all these kinds of gifts. And I was like, always like, wow.
Well, where'd Laura get
She
off?
always showed up with like
I've got her picture in the car. She forgot it.
Hot Wheels. That way, I think.
Yeah, the one taking birthday was all posed in the trees naked.
It was never like
Really? You have that?
You've never seen it?
I've seen it, but I don't know what happened to it.
Oh, it was in storage. And then when she left last time, she got everything, and then she called me.
And then
I
again,
forgot
the
the
bird of
Because we
paradise.
had set it up for
I
when we
wondered
broke
what
it.
happened, so I'd love to have it.
Oh, yeah. I brought it up for her. And also, she wanted a blanket or a comforter. I don't know if it meant something to her or she was cold. But that
Probably
was something.
cold.
It was something that she forgot. So I brought that. Yeah, Laura has the same picture. She was in it too.
Oh, I didn't know Laura was in it too. They both were?
Yeah, this is just down the street from where
Oh,
Laura
how
lives
funny.
in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of her protests. I'll go up and get it too.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't see it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So good to have. It's
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That baby's
so nice. And all just like,
yeah.
not stressed about it.
Yeah.
Kind of in terms of the complexity.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think Heidi. I don't know.
Well, that's human too.
I thought you said that very well.
I mean,
Oh,
I
thanks.
love my family to death, but I still disagree with people like Haley. Haley. And I think that makes it better.
Yeah. And sorry, I interrupted.
No, yes.
It's hard to put it in a word.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I can't even go to this bad.
Yeah. No, we're all unique.
Seriously.
Let's hope you guys don't have to experience that for decades.
I hope. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I feel your feelings, and I'm always here for you. I know we never talk, but
Well, we need to spend more time together. You know? It's like, like I was talking to your mom, it just, life gets in the way. And,
Yeah. No, I got,
if I have to set reminders and, set reminders to call and come over, and you just need to stop letting life just.
You can't be hard on yourself about it. I can't.
It happens to everybody.
It's no one's fault.
No, it's no one's fault.
Things like
It
this
just happens.
They are a good reminder that life's too short.
Okay. Okay.
That's
You know,
story with the,
you know you're like you feel better, right?
I do.
Yeah, that's true.
I do a little bit.
I'm
She
glad
loved you guys.
Yeah.
because she was
Get the shock on the
very worth knowing, and there's a lot of
She might have been 16.
what shall I say, significance. You know, how else do you
keep making
know,
it crazy.
know about your family except like this, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And what I was really glad is that people didn't
Yeah, I mean,
just eulogize.
how old were you?
Not that you couldn't, and we did. I mean, she obviously had some wonderful qualities, but they didn't shy away from
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
presenting
I like
as
it.
a rounded
It's
person.
like 8. Right.
You know, no bullshit. You know?
No bullshit. I like that.
Yeah.
I think all truth, and I think I didn't get to know Vicky as well as everyone else did, but I went on these trips to help Frankie. Did anyone not the RV and stuff? And I did get to know her a little bit better. And one thing I can say is she was one soulful person.
One
Soulful.
Yes.
And she always had something nice to say to me. And she was always asking me about me and myself. And I just felt loved by her. I didn't get to know her that well, but like a little bit like skeptical. Yeah, I know that a lot of people mentioned that it was like controversial.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just feeling lucky that I didn't let that get in the way of me getting to know her. But that was beautiful. We had our own relationship.
Well, she did with each one of us.
That's hard.
I think the kids got lucky.
Yeah.
You got lucky, like Frankie. They
Maybe
kind of
so.
slid through the radar of my mother's tiffs. They just kind of slid under the radar.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's like, I don't know.
I felt
Growing
like
up, feel like
if we left here and all we heard was funny stories, eulogizing, people
Yeah, because right now, I mean, I'm sure you thought this when you were a kid, but right now I think mine's never like you will. But like,
Oh, I know, it's beautiful.
life is life.
Really great. And
I know.
Yeah,
I've been dealing with it.
I love it.
Yeah.
so many people, but they actually are saying,
She's sweet. And we,
That one at home.
aware of that, overall,
I remember that one.
she had a great
Remember
When I'd stand out there and cuss at people.
I remember that when you guys were
two other people,
Bob,
and I think
Bob White, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
that makes me very happy.
Garrett.
You know,
You know what?
Angela and I talked about
He's kind of
He was a jerk.
adventurous. Yeah, I believe. I mean,
He was a jerk.
he was kind of a rebel, and he.
I was such a little kid. He was a teenager. So.
Oh yeah, he was probably right.
I wonder whatever happened to him.
I agree with that.
I mean, I don't remember. I lost track after like mom told me something around when I was 20 years old. I lost her.
you know, also at
But
times.
yeah,
I know a lot of people like that, and I love them.
it's just that I look back at mom's life and because as a kid, everything that she did, I was just like, oh, okay, well, she moved to Oakland, or she drives a cab, you just, I don't know, I always just sort of take for granted, not easy, all those
No.
changing your life, just jumping in, trying something new.
She was never afraid.
Especially when you
Yeah,
hear
exactly.
second
Kind of adventurous.
secondhand. When you hear it secondhand.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Entrepreneurial, kind of,
You're very entrepreneurial. But she lived her life how she wanted to live it. Not many people get that.
Yeah.
You know? That's how you throw people away. I want you to pick the first one.
I don't even want to think about it. Because they all look beautiful. That is very
Oh, yeah.
Thank
And I love your story because Vicky did not see herself as a policeman, you know.
Oh, right.
You know, it wasn't her job.
Angela, get off too.
And for the first, see, you got a different confidence than your own.
Right, I know.
I at first thought that I was
The policeman.
a police. You know, you know, help do the society's job, making my children, you know, be someone that everybody liked, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it was a process to get rid of that. I guess I didn't 100% get rid of it because David was mentioning some situations where I obviously still have it. You know, but
Right.
some of it must have stuck because Vicky got that idea from somewhere.
Right.
A lot of it, you know, not I want to be that person that shaved her shoulders. And I didn't. I mean, you know, I'm not perfect, and you guys aren't perfect. So, do you feel like you know Vicky? I know thoroughly. I'm really glad, you know.
Yeah.
I work really closely. I've never been able. I guess I don't know anything about Vicky because I was and so it's because you've gotten there. I'm really honored to have gotten to hear all the stories. I said to Frankie, I feel really honored to have gotten to hear everybody's stories.
Really?
You know, I thought about your father who died so young.
Yeah,
Really, and
not
he's
very
standing there,
serious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Like I say, I really love the line.
You know, like that. It's not working.
Little by little, little by little, has to come back to what it was.
Right.
Yeah, it's suspended.
But you can't get hung up on it. I mean, not only person,
You know,
Vicky was obviously a good parent. She had a moment. It's all
I feel like my brother it's so important.
you know, nothing bad.
I never thought that there's something.
I just felt like
Yeah, no, it's
oh my God. Maybe I should get in the role with people.
Yeah.
You know,
no point in
because now it's too late.
Might as well let it go.
and
Move on.
Can't keep everything.
no, yeah. Definitely did want to help though. I remember when I was in Shelby Blackman, she said to me, she's like, I want to make your windows clean when Shelby gets home. Like she's like, let's get newspaper because that helps to not leave streets and you really need to clean it up.
Yeah.
Clean up the place. She did make me laugh, the little bit I knew her. She did have some good jokes.
He was also
For my mother.
Yeah. Right.
I'm glad she didn't say, hey, doggy.
That's really good.
That's what they knew with my 12-year-old.
That's how it came about.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it came.
Oh, yeah.
I was really good.
That's
I know, and you got a haircut. Just come up with
Tired
long hair. Your hair was getting a long time, I think.
Oh, yeah. Shoot.
Yeah, cut it.
Yeah.
No one missed
I
mean,
yeah, it's kind of silly.
Oh, you cut it during COVID? Oh, that's great.
Right.
My mom's not she she's a hairdresser. Whenever I don't cut it for a while, I don't let it cut it for her. So I got all these.
She's an Irish
Oh, wow, that's hard. Yeah.
That's
It's
funny.
nice
That's
to
funny.
cut your hair.
I'll
Too.
remember that.
Are you ready to like let it go?
Yes, I'm good. I was surprised too, but you know,
How long did it get?
Yeah, he's like, well, no one's gonna say
That's
that
true.
anyways, right?
It's
You
so
have long hair too. I remember I saw a picture of you and like, wow,
I'm very
Well, it's good that you guys have the hair to do that. My brother, he just hit 30 and now he's
so pretty low.
yeah. My dad has a full head of hair. It's like every other generation.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Oh, yeah.
Take your
My mom told me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just take you.
My dad, oh, yeah.
Exactly.
How do you keep a long
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
get
right.
smart.
It's hard.
Yeah.
He did, my brother did try the lawn. So he's in the band. So I just gotta grow it out when I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How tall are you now?
No.
That's not tiny.
Better learn those things. Right, on the ground. There's nothing there. What have I done?
Height comes up. You're tall, but is there someone else in the family that's super tall?
Are you gonna go into
Uncle Bob says, no, it just doesn't seem as calm.
You were enjoying it at the time. But it turns on you.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does. Slow.
I'm gonna go.
No, no.
Okay, all right.
Nah, your story is your strength.
Oh,
This is so nice.
I gotta get these ideas.
There's no way I'm at your chin. My eyes are at your chin. That is not. You're on a hill or those shoes are on a patio or something.
Even they knew Kathy was bummed out. Look at that cute dog.
I know it's taller than me now.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know. No, we do. We'll measure.
We see.
I don't know. Look at this. Look at this. You see this? You're on a hill.
Yes. Even though I would have liked to be in the top of it, I would have.
I might have to just.
Just
Used to be taller than me. And I've got taller than me.
What if I get older? That's really.
You'll never work out, right?
Fortunate to drive.
You might die fast.
Very stable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were talking about what's the
That's the truth. We are a minority.
another name for reminded me of Starbucks. The way that they said they would just snap on you.
Oh,
Starbucks.
Oh, okay.
What type of dog is it?
Oh, you must have seen it.
Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seldom, once in a while.
It's like a little brown.
Yeah.
Little like. What you can do.
Yeah.
What you can do from a public health point of view.
Yeah.
Right.
I was picturing like a little like.
They did a good job actually with the.
Yeah, they clip the tails on those, I think, just so that some tail wax.
San Francisco, yeah. Oh, it still does.
It still does.
It still does.
I don't know why people are on that.
They have a big budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Right there.
So they could
Yeah.
afford to rehab these people.
That's right.
Huh?
And sometimes that's what it takes.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And even then,
Well, you know,
rarely
you gotta go. You
actually
gotta
got
go.
Yeah.
there was a lot of good recovery in San Francisco.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
that
was
vicious
just-
cycle
But
goes
that's the
over.
fortunate minority, yeah.
Yeah. You appreciate.
Oh, and you saw it too from your vantage in medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still
Oh,
see
yeah,
so
yeah.
many
Oh. Oh yeah.
have an option to pull on.
You could go
And
viral.
they choose not
They
to.
choose not.
They choose not
Absolutely.
to.
Most choose
You'll
not.
see it even with, and I'm sure you saw it there even with people of privilege. I mean,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
just, you know, they have more people to clean up after their vomit, but they're dying. I mean, they have the opportunity to get better, and
And they don't hit the bottom, so they don't
Right.
know.
it can
Right.
be
The
very dangerous.
privilege can take.
That's right.
Yeah,
And it does.
It's
Of course, they can recover. It's just, you
It
know,
happens here and there.
yeah, it happens here and there.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
family, you know. And you don't.
People, at least more people know about recovery today.
Right.
They know
That's
it's possible. And they also, the harm reduction programs, I think, are good.
This process, it does.
You know,
But at least she doesn't know anything about cars.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not finding it. I was trying to,
Honey,
you said you had a picture?
Oh, I was wrong. What Oh, they're in the house. There's
No,
pictures,
myself.
but it's not Harry. I thought it was Harry. It's actually my mom said no, that's Bob. It was a picture with Wally and Stan, my dad,
Yeah.
and
No, I'm
and
actually.
Carol when she's young, and they got the babies,
Yeah, so I'm just.
and it looks just like Joe. It looks so much like Joe that I thought that had to be Harry, but she said no, that's Bob.
Oh, that's funny. Wait a minute, that's not him.
But I'll show you the picture.
Yeah,
and
show
you'll
me the picture. I'm going to see it. I was all excited now.
make sure you don't take her through the front instead of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
He said,
You got her okay?
try this little wafer.
Yeah.
See if you make it. You don't like this one.
Oh, you know what I forgot to say too?
I can carry it.
Well, by the way, Kathy,
I can go around.
No, right here.
do you need a copy of Emmett Fox?
Yeah, I had one. I'm gonna come around, sweetie. I had one, and I thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna note that I got that from you and signed the book.
Yeah, they're probably used books that
Where's Harry?
I bought off Amazon.
Thank you very much. I just finished reading Pass It On.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
haven't read it, you probably have, but if you haven't, be sure to get a chance to read it. I was amazed.
Coming
I
back.
was
Tell me
amazed.
the author's name again.
It's an AA book.
Right?
Yeah,
I think I did. I think I have it, but I don't.
yeah. I read every word. I really took time with it, and it was great. I think you'll really
it's
enjoy
very
it.
well known.
I think you'll really
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
So usually it's like a one person.
And,
Watch out,
keep
Charlie.
going.
Oops, I'm tripping.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh yeah, you don't have that
Oh, yeah.
picture on that thing yet?
I actually.
This one and the other one. This one my mom. One is not sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But as the text version of it, she said, see, it's just send them something. So I said, this. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was telling you.
Yeah.
Well,
But I guess the
we never
printer
get our numbers together.
decided that one had a picture. It's good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
He's just like,
I know. What?
I think I think we need to take her around the front. And we want-
You hear me?
Want to take her to the front porch?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can go in that way.
Pick one.
Which one should I pick, honey?
Any one you want.
The one that catches your eye. Just grab a piece. Ooh.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. You reminded me when you were talking. Your mom did love that trip to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, she did. She had so many stones and
She loved it
different
when
things
someone was
and-
going there.
yeah. Yeah, she really did.
People would land. It was in Phoenix, right? Or which town was it?
Good question. I don't know. I know my brother lives in Kingsman, and it's about an hour from the
The
Grand
one that has an
Canyon.
airport.
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff. That's what. People would fly into Flagstaff because it was the closest airport, and they'd be on their way to the Grand Canyon, and so she'd get lots of trips to the up to the.
Yeah, yeah,
And
she
she'd
loved
take
that.
people all the way.
Yeah.
She loved that. It was a good fare too.
Well, she enjoyed it up there too.
Yeah, she liked that.
Oh.
You want to sit back here,
Hey,
or you want to sit?
would you like a copy? Since I have extra.
Oh, what is this? Oh,
This is
sure.
the book we were studying.
Oh, thank you. You sure I can have this one?
Yes, it's probably a used copy.
Okay, thank you. Y'all read it.
So the back or front?
Well, I'll take her to the front because I don't want to take her through the kitchen.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, she'll take some snacks on the way.
Yeah,
Well,
it'll be hard for her.
You know what that reminds me of? Well, who was it? Was it Beowulf or Ace that got out and stole the turkey on Thanksgiving?
Beowulf, yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
He got out. He came back with someone's Thanksgiving turkey.
God.
oh, jeez.
Never figured out where it came from, but
I don't think they want it back at that point.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I started laughing. He didn't see what
You didn't.
she did.
When Grandma was
Grandma, she
speaking,
didn't know.
no, Grandma was oblivious. Yeah, the dog went right back there.
Right back there.
Just decided to
Got it.
take a poo.
She was overdue. So since we left, she peed, but she hasn't pooped.
That's
You know,
funny.
I take her out every 4 hours from the motel.
And then
'Cause
someone
we're up on the third
blurts
floor.
out and says, "Oh, tell Grandma." And we're like, she probably
She peed, but she never pooped.
You know
I was
what?
getting
That's
worried about it.
I could. My mom would have laughed hysterically at that. That was funny.
Oh.
You know, Grandma would have laughed too if she saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, and thank you.
Well, maybe
for,
she will. It's
thank
on the
you
live
for-
stream.
Presuming that
Yeah.
David watched it.
Yeah.
He got back to me and said, "Oh, your hair's getting long, Dad."
Yeah, that's what he's still a police officer, right?
Well, now he's an FBI agent.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for 3 years now.
Good for him.
FBI.
I wonder if he knows my other cousin Jeff. He's also in the FBI. I'll have to ask him.
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, it's a big organization, but maybe not that big.
Well, you never know. Oh, that's cool. Well, congratulations to him. Yeah, it's been so long since, I touched base with him. Last I heard, he was a cop. So
Right. And then he became a detective.
I remember that part. Yeah.
And the next step, they made it to the FBI.
Well, good for him.
His mom, Ceci, hopes. Now he's got the job. Now get married, have children. She's waiting for it. She's waiting. He wants to be a grandma so bad.
What about Nicholas?
Not yet. He's serious about girls, but hasn't got married. But it may happen. They may be David.
Who knows?
Or maybe he doesn't want to marry. I don't know. He's had some good girlfriends.
Oh, I'm sure. Eventually.
Yeah. I would have got up, but I would have totally lost it. The only thing I remember about her is when we stayed at Shelby's house, which came up and stayed at Shelby's.
She was house sitting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Shelby was out
What
of
in
town.
Which one? The one
The
here?
Silmar one, or the Silmar, what's it called?
The one that
Rancho or something?
I can't think of the name. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah, I was there a couple times. It was a
And-
nice house. I'm surprised
Yeah.
Shelby sold it.
yeah. And
Neighbor problems.
Oh, that's right. They had
Oh,
that
yeah.
weird neighbor.
Vicky made popcorn, and she said, "Oh yeah, like watch TV and we'll eat popcorn." She ate the whole bowl by herself. It was okay. It wasn't.
Oh, did you watch that?
She's like,
That's funny.
No, that's okay.
so,
Good cat.
okay, we'll go through the side gate. And
Are you guys leaving or?
No,
no, we're
Okay.
gonna go out front.
I was gonna
I
say
mean,
there's
Just
tacos and stuff.
Laura asked that we not bring the dog
Oh,
through the kitchen.
that makes sense.
yeah, I think it was Angela
Or
actually.
oh, is it Angela? Oh,
Yes.
somebody. Okay.
So,
She's a good
Are you
girl.
doing a little reviewing and editing, or just
No, I'm getting
reviewing?
ready to end the live and then.
Yes, at Miss Star, the show.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
oh my,
I'll have to look at the live later and see if we got it on camera.
Oh, you
I-
did.
yeah,
You did.
yes, you would, yes.
Did you record?
Dead center.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Grandma's right
She
there,
zoomed
and
it.
Dougie's
Oh, I
right
know,
there.
but it's not that easy to record.
Oh no, that way in
If you know how.
anyone
I
that
don't know.
missed it that want
Yeah.
couldn't make it, they can go back and watch
Yeah,
it.
But,
Um,
yeah, I know there's
yes, because you can put it on record. But
Yeah.
I mean,
do YouTube or something.
Yeah, that's what it is on
something like
YouTube.
yeah, it's only the one that or like not anyone, but the one that's actually doing the recording. That's
Yeah,
like you.
yeah. So, but it'll be on there. So, whoever missed it or wants to,
You better
See
plug
if they
in the
can.
dirt, baby.
oh, that's okay.
Just an is. That's how you do that. Or however. No, then it'll get stepped on. Put it back over here. Oh, how you be?
Okay. I'm hungry.
Somebody in there jamming in that
Who's
kitchen.
Yeah, I'd be Damon.
Food is important.
For real.
Sometimes it restores us. I don't even realize that I'm, lacking food, and she'll tell me. She's real good
Oh.
at that. What did you eat today? Oh, I had some coffee. So you didn't eat
Yeah,
yet?
coffee's not eating.
You gotta eat.
I was out at 7:30 this morning getting a gallon of water and a jar and some coffee. I'm going shopping tomorrow whenever. I'm soldiers through it. But I'm out there, I need some coffee. The water's I go in the store and I got this big of water in a little jar and some coffee. I said, I need this much coffee and that much water. Okay.
You
Not
two-
like it's strong, but
your Amanda has been a great support person for us today.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Even me and Amanda go back.
yeah. I always explain to, and she's on the way to you, how we met about the,
Felix.
Felix. The
My
missing
cat Felix indirectly.
Yeah, missing cat on
introduced
the
us.
pole by my house, and I have a cat that looks just like him.
Oh.
So people are going by, isn't that, there's a
Yeah,
missing
there
cat?
he is.
No, he's not. My cat's name is Wacko, okay?
Wacko.
This is Felix, and he is, okay?
Yeah.
And I went down there and said,
And then people were trying to bring her and drop off this cat. You're like, no.
Oh, yeah, duh. I've got the best story ever. I sort of adopted the gray cat. Gray Bush, supposed to be blind.
Oh, that
Remember?
he's not really blind.
Yeah, I think he's playing me. Okay,
Well-
a blind cat caught a bird.
Cats know suckers when they find them.
My blind cat caught a bird. Okay, I mean, and I found him whatever. It got in a cat fight, and they scratched his eyes. So they were bleeding and stuff. So I took him in, this and that and the other. Feeling sorry for him. I looked out one morning, and under one of the porch chair, I see him munching on something. I'm going, what the hell? I go over there, it's a little birdie. I said, oh, hell no. My blind cat caught a bird. Okay, either that or that was a slur. And land cancer, okay. Because he would lay under the bushes, and he's gray, look just like, So
That bird might have landed a little bit too close.